Emma sat at the small, worn-out table on the corner of 5th and Main, a busy intersection in the heart of the city. She could feel the heat of the sun beating down on her, but it didn't bother her. What bothered her was the line of traffic stretching for miles, the constant hum of engines, and the fact that no one was stopping at her stand. She'd been there for hours now, selling cupcakes for her surgery fund, but no one seemed to care. Her hands were sticky with frosting, her smile forced, and her eyes were heavy with exhaustion. She could barely make out the faces of passing drivers as they sped by. Some didn't even glance at her, others gave her pitying looks. A few cars slowed down, but then sped off just as quickly. This was her reality now, a 15-year-old girl trying to raise money for a life-changing surgery she couldn't afford. A surgery she needed to live. But here she was, baking cupcakes and selling them on a street corner like a forgotten soul, hoping for a miracle. As another car whizzed by without slowing down, Emma let out a deep sigh, resting her head in her hands. What was the point of this? She thought. Would anyone even care enough to help? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Another donation? No. It was a text from her mom. Emma, how's it going? Do you need anything? She paused for a moment, hesitated, then typed back, nothing yet, Mom. I'm trying. She stared at the cupcake stand, her heart sinking further. She needed $10,000 for the surgery, an astronomical amount for someone with no resources. The doctors had told her mother that it was the only way she could have a shot at living a normal life, but it seemed impossible. She'd been saving every penny she could, but today's effort wasn't looking good. Suddenly, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb, its engine purring as it came to a slow stop right in front of her stand. The window rolled down, and Emma looked up, her heart skipping a beat. It was almost as if time had slowed down. The car was unmistakable, fancy, high-end. But who would be stopping here? She blinked in disbelief as the person inside the car leaned forward. The man's face looked familiar, though she couldn't quite place it. Then, it hit her. No way. Her breath caught in her throat. Hey there, the man said with a warm smile, his voice deep and calm. What's going on here? Cupcakes for a cause? Emma's mind went blank. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Is this a joke? Was she dreaming? Was this real life? There was no mistaking it, the man sitting in front of her was Elon Musk. The Elon Musk. Billionaire, inventor, and CEO of SpaceX and Tesla. Yeah, Emma stammered, forcing herself to focus. I'm raising money for my surgery. I have a medical condition that needs treatment, and these cupcakes are all I can do right now to raise the funds. Elon Musk nodded thoughtfully. How much are you trying to raise? Emma's voice barely came out as she said, $10,000. It's for surgery. She trailed off, her words faltering. Elon's eyes softened with empathy. That's a big amount. But you know, if anyone can make a difference, it's people like you. Selling cupcakes to make things happen, that's dedication. Emma's heart raced, her mind a whirl of emotions. Is he really talking to me? She had seen him on TV, read about his successes, and followed his company's innovations. But right now, he was just a person in front of her, someone who seemed to genuinely care. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. How much are the cupcakes? They're $5 each, Emma replied, barely able to keep the excitement from her voice. Elon smiled. I'll take one, but here's the thing, I'll buy everything you have here today. And I think I can help with the rest. We can make this happen for you. Emma's heart skipped another beat. Her hands were shaking as she handed him a cupcake, not quite sure if this was a dream or reality. You're going to help me? She asked, incredulous. But, why? Elon took the cupcake from her, his eyes never leaving hers. "Why not?" he said with a shrug. "I believe in giving back. You have a purpose, and sometimes the right people come along at the right time." He gave her a nod. "I'll be back in an hour. We'll see what we can do to make sure you're taken care of." And just like that, he was gone, driving off into the busy streets, leaving Emma standing there, her hands still trembling, the weight of what had just happened settling in. She looked at the empty cupcake stand, the silence around her almost deafening. Did that really just happen? Her phone buzzed again. It was a notification: "Elon Musk has donated $10,000 to your campaign." Emma stared at the screen, unable to comprehend. The tears started to come, slowly at first, then more freely as the weight of it all hit her. She collapsed into the chair, staring at the sky, not knowing what to feel. In that moment, everything changed. A random act of kindness from a stranger had just turned her entire world upside down. This wasn't just a donation, this was the beginning of something incredible. Emma sat at her stand, the bustling city noise suddenly distant, as her mind tried to process what had just happened. Elon Musk donated $10,000? It felt surreal, like she had been transported into a different world, one where everything was possible, and all her problems were suddenly solvable. But as the minutes passed, the magic of that moment started to fade, and reality slowly crept back in. She stared at her phone screen, the donation notification still blinking in front of her. This can't be real. She had been in shock ever since Elon left, and now, as the crowd of drivers and pedestrians passed her by without a second glance, her excitement began to feel like a distant dream. Is this really happening? She kept asking herself. She had to be careful. After all, it wasn't just the money she needed, it was the surgery. The surgery that would take everything out of her. The surgery that had to happen for her to survive. And no matter how much money she raised or how generous Elon was, would it really be enough? The day had barely begun, and already the emotional roller coaster of hope and doubt was taking its toll. "Hey, you all right?" a voice called from behind her. Emma turned, startled, and saw a young man standing next to her stand. He looked to be about her age, maybe a little older, and he had a friendly smile that was warm and welcoming. Yeah. Just, a lot going on today," Emma muttered, wiping a tear from her cheek. She hadn't even realized she was crying. The young man raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What's going on? You look like you just won the lottery." He glanced at the empty cupcake stand. "Selling cupcakes for something important, I'm guessing?" Emma nodded. "Yeah. I'm trying to raise money for my surgery. I have a medical condition that needs treatment, and, well, it's complicated." The guy looked at her with empathy. "That's tough. But you seem, kind of surprised, almost like something just happened." It did." Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to share the crazy story with a stranger, but something about him made her feel like it was okay. A really big donation just came through. From Elon Musk. She paused, her voice trailing off. "He said he'd be back to help me more." The guy's eyes widened in disbelief. "No way. Elon Musk?" Emma nodded slowly, her heart still pounding from the whirlwind of emotions. "I know. I still can't believe it. I mean, who does that? Who just stops in the middle of their busy life to help some random girl?" "Well, sounds like he saw something in you," the guy said, sitting down next to her. "You're doing something big here. Something that matters." Emma wiped her eyes again, still processing everything. "I don't know if it matters. I don't know if it'll ever be enough. I'm just scared. It's not just about the money. It's about everything else, the fear of being left with nothing if this doesn't work out." The guy shrugged. "You know, sometimes life throws curveballs, but you can't let it knock you down. If you're here selling cupcakes, you've already taken the first step. That's more than most people can say. Emma gave him a half-smile. Yeah, but what if it's not enough? What if I've already failed before I even get a chance to try? The guy reached over and picked up one of the cupcakes from the stand, taking a big bite. Well, this cupcake's great, so you're definitely not failing at that. But in all seriousness, sometimes it's the hardest times that push us to succeed. The only failure is quitting. And I don't see you quitting. Emma felt a wave of comfort wash over her. Maybe it was the kindness of the stranger. Or maybe it was just the way he seemed to believe in her without hesitation. Thanks, she said quietly, her eyes scanning the street. The crowd seemed to move faster now, and for a moment, she wished it would slow down so she could catch her breath. Just then, a familiar black car pulled up again, causing Emma's heart to race once more. It was him, Elon Musk. The car stopped right in front of her, and the window rolled down again. This time, instead of just taking a cupcake, Elon leaned out and gave her a firm nod. Emma, I've been thinking about your situation, he said. I want to help you, but not just today. This is a long-term thing. I believe in what you're doing. And if you're willing, we can make it happen, together. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Together? What did he mean by that? Don't worry about the money. That's already covered, Elon continued. But I think you can use this as a stepping stone for something bigger, something you've probably never imagined. We're going to get you the surgery, yes, but we'll also look at what's next. Maybe even raise awareness for others who are going through the same thing. Emma opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She was frozen, her brain scrambling to process everything. But, Elon added, glancing at her carefully, the real question is, are you ready to take the next step? Emma blinked, trying to understand. The next step? What did he mean? She felt a sense of urgency rise within her. This was more than just a donation. This was about changing her life forever. Am I ready? Before she could answer, Elon added, I'll be back to discuss the details. We'll figure this out together. With that, he drove off again, leaving Emma with even more questions than answers. She sat back, staring at the spot where he had been, the weight of his words sinking in. Are you ready to take the next step? The question echoed in her mind. Her hands trembled again, but this time it was different. It wasn't fear anymore. It was a strange mix of excitement and uncertainty, a feeling of anticipation. Maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. But could she really take the leap? Could she truly believe that this was more than just a random act of kindness? Her mind swirled with possibilities, but one thing was clear, everything had just changed. The days following Elon Musk's visit felt like a blur to Emma. The world around her had shifted dramatically in just 24 hours. She was no longer the girl sitting alone on the corner of 5th and Main, desperately hoping for a few spare coins to fund her surgery. Now, she was at the center of something much bigger, something that had the potential to change her entire life. But with all the excitement came an overwhelming wave of doubt. What happens now? She kept asking herself. Am I really ready for whatever's next? It wasn't just the shock of receiving $10,000. It was the sudden weight of responsibility that came with it. Elon's words, "Are you ready to take the next step?" echoed in her mind constantly, and the more she thought about it, the more unsure she became. What was this next step supposed to be? Was she ready to open her life up to a complete stranger, someone who had the power to change everything for her? By the time Elon returned, Emma had spent hours grappling with her emotions. The uncertainty was eating at her, making it hard to think clearly. But she couldn't deny the truth, a door had opened, and she wasn't sure if she was brave enough to walk through it. The next afternoon, the black car pulled up in front of her stand again, and her heart skipped a beat. This time, it wasn't just Elon. He was accompanied by a small team of people, all dressed in sleek, professional attire. They looked like they meant business. Emma stood up, feeling her palms sweat as she tried to steady herself. This is really happening, she thought. This is real. Elon stepped out of the car first, flashing a warm, reassuring smile. "Hey Emma," he greeted her. "I'm glad you're here. I wanted to introduce you to my team. We've been brainstorming ways to make sure your surgery is just the beginning." Emma swallowed hard. The beginning of what exactly? One of Elon's team members, a woman in her mid-30s with short, dark hair, stepped forward. "We've been looking into ways to help raise awareness for your condition," she said. "We're hoping to leverage social media, some of our contacts, and even start a fundraiser to get more people involved. This could be bigger than just your surgery. You could help others who are going through the same thing." Emma blinked, her mind spinning. This is bigger? Her stomach flipped as the realization hit her. She wasn't just a girl selling cupcakes anymore. She was part of something that could reach far beyond her own needs. The idea of raising awareness for others, of becoming a voice for people who were struggling like her, it sounded incredible. But it also terrified her. "That's a huge responsibility," she said, her voice wavering. "I mean, I never expected any of this. It's all so much to take in." Elon nodded. "I get it. But I've seen people take a leap when they're not sure if they're ready. And they come out stronger. We want to support you, but this has to be something you're passionate about. If you want to do it, we'll be here every step of the way. But it has to come from you." Emma looked down at her hands, clenched tightly around the edges of the table. This was a turning point, a moment where everything could change, but only if she took that first step. The fear that had been holding her back was real, but deep down, she knew she couldn't let it control her anymore. She had come so far already, and the thought of turning back now was unthinkable. "Okay," she said, her voice a little stronger now. "I'll do it. I'll take the next step." Elon smiled, and the team behind him exchanged nods of approval. "That's what I like to hear," he said. "We'll get to work on the details. We'll need your story, what you've been through, what you're hoping for. Once we have that, we can start putting together a campaign to get the word out. But remember, this isn't just about raising money. It's about helping people see the bigger picture. Your story matters." As they talked through the plan, Emma's nervousness slowly began to subside. She wasn't sure how all of this would unfold, but there was a part of her that felt more alive than she had in a long time. "This is bigger than me," she thought. "This is about making a difference." The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings, phone calls, and preparations. Elon's team worked tirelessly to set up a social media campaign, creating videos, blog posts, and a website dedicated to Emma's cause. They made sure to highlight not only her medical journey but also her passion for helping others in similar situations. With their connections, they secured interviews with local news outlets and even lined up a potential appearance on a national talk show. But as the campaign gained momentum, Emma began to feel the pressure. It wasn't just about the surgery anymore. It was about living up to the expectations that others had for her. The weight of representing so many people who were struggling with medical conditions like hers was daunting. She wasn't sure she was ready for all of this. And then came the first major setback. A week into the campaign, Emma received an email from the hospital's financial department. It was a form letter with a subject line that made her stomach drop: surgery fund status, urgent attention needed. She opened it quickly, her heart pounding. The email explained that despite the large donation Elon had made, there were still several additional fees associated with the surgery that weren't covered. Medical equipment, post-surgery care, and hospital charges had pushed the total cost even higher. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she read the numbers. The total amount needed was now double what they had initially thought. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. All of the hard work, all of the hope, could fall apart in an instant. What now? She thought, feeling her knees weaken. Would it ever be enough? Would she ever be able to truly get the help she needed? Just as she was about to break down, her phone buzzed with a new message. She wiped her tears away and checked it. It was from Elon. "Hey Emma, I know this is overwhelming. But we've got your back. Let's meet soon. We'll figure this out together." And for the first time in days, Emma felt a glimmer of hope. The climb was steep, but she wasn't alone anymore. Not this time. She took a deep breath. "We'll figure this out," she thought. Together. The next few days felt like a blur. Emma found herself juggling the stress of the campaign, the looming uncertainty about her surgery, and the overwhelming pressure of her new responsibilities. It was more than just about raising money now. It had become about a movement she wasn't sure she was ready to lead. The phone calls came constantly, the emails flooded in, and the messages on her social media accounts began to pile up. People from all over the world were reaching out to her, offering words of encouragement, sharing their own stories, and asking how they could help. At times, it felt like everything was moving too fast, like she was being swept up in a tide she couldn't control. But then there were moments, brief moments, when she would stop and remind herself of why she was doing this. It wasn't for the fame, the attention, or even the money. It was for the surgery. It was for the chance to live. And beyond that, it was for the chance to help others who were fighting the same battles she was. The feeling of purpose grounded her when things got too overwhelming. One afternoon, just after she'd finished a long interview with a local TV station, Emma sat down on the bench outside her apartment building. Her mind was racing. "This is so much bigger than I imagined," she thought, looking at the screen of her phone, which displayed the campaign's growing success. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "Emma, you okay?" She looked up, startled, to see the young man who had spoken to her the day Elon had made the donation. He was leaning against the building, a friendly smile on his face. His name was Chris, she remembered. He had been kind to her when everything felt uncertain, and seeing him now was oddly comforting. "Hey," she replied, offering a small smile. "Yeah, just processing everything, I guess. This has gotten so crazy. It's a lot more than I thought it would be." "I can imagine," Chris said, sitting next to her on the bench. "But you've got something special here. People are rallying behind you. You're not just selling cupcakes now. You're making a real difference." Emma shook her head, still feeling the weight of it all. "It feels like a lot of pressure. I mean, what if I can't live up to all this hope people have in me? What if the surgery doesn't work? What if all of this is for nothing?" Chris looked at her seriously. "Look, I get it. It's terrifying. You're putting yourself out there in a way that most people would never dare to. But the fact that you're doing it anyway? That's the most important thing. You're showing people that it's okay to be vulnerable, to ask for help when you need it. You're not alone in this, and neither are the people who are following your story." Emma felt her throat tighten as the words sank in. "I'm not alone," she thought. "I've never been alone in this. I don't know if I'm ready to take this all the way, though," Emma admitted, her voice wavering. "There's so much on the line, and I'm scared. I've been through so much already, and now it feels like everything is changing so quickly. What if I mess up? What if I'm not the person people think I am?" Chris placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to be perfect. No one expects you to be. People are drawn to you because of your story, your authenticity. It's not about being flawless, it's about being real." Emma nodded slowly, taking in his words. Maybe she had been trying too hard to hold everything together on her own. Maybe it was time to let go of the fear of failure and embrace what was coming, no matter how uncertain it felt. A few hours later, Elon called her. His voice came through the phone, steady and calm, but there was an undeniable determination in it that made Emma feel a surge of hope. "Emma," he began, "I've been following everything, and I want you to know that we're in this together. I know the surgery costs have gone up, and I know you're worried about the next steps. But we've got some more support coming through. I don't want you to worry about the money anymore. Focus on the recovery. Focus on what's next for you and the people you can help." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her, but the uncertainty still lingered. "I appreciate everything you've done, Elon. But I don't know what to expect. What if it's not enough?" "It will be enough," he said with unwavering confidence. "You're stronger than you think, Emma. We're making sure you have what you need, not just for the surgery, but for everything that comes after it. This is just the beginning." Just then, Emma heard a knock on her door. She glanced at the time and realized it was nearly dinner hour. "I've got to go, Elon. But I'll keep you updated on everything." "Of course," he replied. "And Emma, you've got this. You really do." As she hung up the phone, Emma felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. The fear was still there, but it no longer felt as consuming. Elon's words resonated with her in a way she hadn't expected. This is just the beginning, and that meant there was more to look forward to. More to fight for. She opened the door to find her neighbor standing there with a small package in hand. It was a box of cupcakes from a bakery down the street, a sweet gesture from the people who had been supporting her since the campaign started. She had never expected so much kindness to come her way. "Hey, I thought you could use some cheering up," the neighbor said with a smile. "Keep fighting, Emma. You've got this." She smiled back, the weight on her shoulders lightening for just a moment. "I've got this." Taking a deep breath, she opened the box of cupcakes, the sweet aroma filling the air. Maybe things weren't perfect. Maybe the road ahead would be full of unexpected challenges. But for the first time in a long while, Emma felt ready to face whatever came next. Because no matter how hard the journey was, she wasn't walking it alone anymore. The days after Elon's call felt like they held the promise of something brighter. With the overwhelming support, the campaign gaining momentum, and the promise of financial stability for her surgery, Emma thought she might finally be in control of her life. She dared to believe that everything was heading in the right direction. But as is often the case with life, things don't always go as planned. It was a Thursday morning when Emma's phone rang at 7 a.m., a time when she would normally still be deep in sleep. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw the number on the screen. It was from the hospital. With a trembling hand, she answered. "Hello? Ms. Turner, this is Dr. Walters from St. Mary's Hospital. I'm afraid we've received some troubling news regarding your surgery." The world around Emma seemed to freeze as Dr. Walters's voice continued. "Due to unforeseen complications with scheduling and the increased demand for surgical procedures, we've had to reschedule your surgery to a later date. I know this is very disappointing, but we assure you we're doing everything we can to accommodate all our patients in a timely manner." Emma felt her stomach drop. The anxiety, the pressure, the anticipation, it had all been building up to this moment. And now it felt like everything was slipping through her fingers. She could hear the doctor's words, but they didn't seem to reach her. "Wait. What do you mean, reschedule?" she asked, trying to steady her breath. "I've been preparing for this. This is everything to me. You can't just push it off." "I'm afraid so," Dr. Walters replied, her voice apologetic but firm. "We're doing everything we can to make sure it happens as soon as possible, but I must inform you that your surgery won't be able to take place for another 2 months. 2 months. That was an eternity. Emma felt the room close in on her. Everything she had worked for, the months of fundraising, the the support of strangers, the chance to finally have her life back, was hanging in the balance. She could feel the frustration rising, the sense of helplessness creeping in. "I understand," she said quietly, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Thank you." As soon as she ended the call, Emma collapsed on the couch, tears streaming down her face. The weight of it all, everything she had fought for, everything she had hoped for, suddenly felt too much to bear. The girl who had been so determined, so sure that she was moving forward, now felt lost. 2 months. How could she wait 2 more months? It felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke on her. She stared at her phone, the messages and notifications from fans, friends, and strangers all flashing on the screen. They were all waiting for good news. How could I tell them this? She had promised everyone that this was the start of something incredible. She had promised herself. And now, everything was on pause. Later that afternoon, Elon called again. He had been keeping up with the progress of her campaign and the growing interest, but when Emma answered the phone, he could tell immediately that something was wrong. "Hey, Emma. What's going on? You don't sound like yourself." Emma inhaled sharply, fighting the tears. "It's been rescheduled. The surgery, it's 2 months away." A long pause followed before Elon spoke. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I know how much this means to you." Her voice broke. "I just don't get it. I've been so focused on this moment for so long, and now I don't know what to do. I feel like I've been given this huge opportunity and I'm about to lose it all." Elon's voice softened, and she could hear the sincerity in his words. "I understand how devastating this is. But just because there's a delay doesn't mean it's the end. We'll figure out a way to make this work, okay? You're not alone in this." The words didn't immediately make Emma feel better, but they did something unexpected. They reminded her that she wasn't alone. For the first time in days, she realized that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. She could lean on others, on Elon, on her family, on the people who had rallied behind her. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to keep going. What if this all falls apart?" "Don't worry about that now," Elon said, sounding more determined than ever. "Focus on getting yourself ready for the surgery. It's still happening, and we'll be with you every step of the way." And for the first time in a while, Emma felt the tiniest spark of hope. The next few days were full of difficult decisions and overwhelming emotions. Emma had to tell her followers about the delay, a task she dreaded. The outpouring of support was immediate and heartwarming. Messages flooded in from people who had been following her journey, all offering words of encouragement. But still, the doubts lingered. Could she handle the pressure? Could she trust that things would work out? Was this delay a sign that everything she had worked for was about to crumble? One night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she received a message from an unexpected source, Chris. "Hey Emma, I know things feel rough right now. But remember, sometimes the storms make us stronger. You've come this far. Just take it one step at a time. And remember, you're not alone. You've got all of us behind you." It was just a simple message, but it hit Emma harder than she expected. Maybe she wasn't alone. Maybe, just maybe, this was another obstacle to overcome, one she could face with the support of everyone who believed in her. The storm had shaken her, but it hadn't broken her. And now, more than ever, she was ready to keep fighting. Not just for the surgery, but for everything that came after it. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of clarity. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not ever. As the weeks dragged on, Emma found herself living in the space between hope and frustration. The 2-month wait for her surgery loomed large, and every day felt like an eternity. The support from her followers remained strong, but there was a heaviness in her chest that wouldn't go away. Every time she looked at her phone or heard the sound of another notification, she was reminded of the growing expectation placed on her, an expectation that she wasn't sure she could live up to. But amidst the uncertainty, something unexpected happened. One Friday afternoon, when Emma was sitting at her kitchen table trying to catch up on emails, the doorbell rang. At first, she thought it might be a delivery or a package. But when she opened the door, she was taken aback by the last person she expected to see. Standing on her doorstep was a man she had seen on TV countless times, Peter Davidson, the CEO of a large medical foundation that specialized in funding life-saving surgeries for those in need. He was known for his public generosity, and his foundation had been involved in numerous high-profile cases. "Hi, Emma," he said with a warm smile, his voice full of kindness. "I hope I'm not disturbing you. Can we talk?" Emma was momentarily stunned. "Wait, what are you doing here?" she blurted out, not entirely sure how to process this sudden visit. "I've been following your story for a while," Peter continued, his eyes softening. "And I think we can help you." She stepped aside, allowing him to enter, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of the situation. Peter Davidson was no stranger to the media, and she had always seen him as somewhat distant, operating in a world far removed from her own. Now, here he was, standing in her small apartment like it was the most natural thing in the world. "So, you've heard about the delay?" Emma asked, offering him a seat at her dining table. "Yes," Peter replied. "And it's clear how much this means to you. I know that this setback is incredibly tough, but I've got a proposition. My foundation can provide the necessary resources to fast-track your surgery. We can work with the hospital to get you in much sooner." Emma's heart raced. Was this real? Could it be that easy? "But, why would you do that for me?" Emma asked, her voice filled with skepticism. "I mean, you don't even know me. Why would you?" Peter smiled again, and this time there was a warmth in his expression that calmed her anxiety. "I don't just help people because it's the right thing to do, Emma. I help people who show resilience, people who inspire others to keep fighting no matter the odds. You've already shown that. You've been fighting for your life, and for the lives of others. I think that's something worth supporting." Emma couldn't quite grasp what was happening. She had been working tirelessly on her campaign, but this was something else entirely. She had always hoped that someone might step forward to help, but she never imagined it would be someone with the power and resources Peter had. "This is really happening?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Peter confirmed. "I've seen what you're doing, and I believe you're exactly the kind of person my foundation wants to support. I want to make sure you get the surgery you need, and we'll make sure it happens as soon as possible. No more waiting." Emma sat back in her chair, her mind spinning. She had worked so hard to get to this point, but now, it felt like she was on the cusp of something even bigger. Something she couldn't have even dreamed of. "I don't know what to say," Emma replied, her voice trembling. This is everything." "You don't have to say anything," Peter said kindly. "But I'd love to see you take this opportunity and do even more with it. You've inspired so many people already. Together, we can make sure this story ends the right way." Peter's words struck Emma deeply. The weight she had been carrying felt a little lighter, but there was still so much to consider. She had to think about the implications of such a generous offer, but more than anything, she had to think about how this could change everything for her, not just in terms of the surgery, but in terms of her future. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. The offer weighed heavily on her mind, and she felt an incredible mix of gratitude and fear. Could she really accept help on this scale? Would she be able to live up to the expectations that now seemed to be mounting? But she had come so far. She had faced so many obstacles, and somehow, she had made it through. Was this another test? Or was this a gift, a turning point in her journey? The next morning, after much thought, Emma made a decision. She would accept the offer. She couldn't afford to wait any longer. She couldn't afford to let doubt and fear keep her from moving forward. She picked up her phone and dialed Peter's number. When he answered, she said simply, "I'm in. Let's do this." Peter was quiet for a moment, and then his voice crackled with excitement. "You've made the right choice, Emma. I'll have my team get in touch with the hospital immediately. We'll have everything set up. Your surgery will happen soon, and we'll make sure you have everything you need." As the conversation ended, Emma felt a new sense of purpose well up inside her. This was her chance. This was the moment where everything could change. And now, with the support of people who truly believed in her, Emma knew she was ready to fight for her future, no matter what it took. The road ahead was still uncertain. There would be challenges, there would be setbacks, and there would be moments when she questioned everything. But now, for the first time in months, she had hope again. She had a team behind her, and she wasn't alone. And with that hope, Emma could already feel herself starting to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. The journey was far from over, but she was ready. Ready to face whatever came next. And this time, she wasn't backing down. With the rescheduled surgery date now just weeks away, Emma found herself in a whirlwind of emotions. The uncertainty of the past few months, the disappointment, the setbacks, and the struggle, all seemed to be culminating into this moment. But with Peter's foundation stepping in to expedite the process, everything felt like it was finally coming together. She had the surgery date locked down. She had the support of her community. And now, with Elon Musk's involvement, her journey had become a beacon of hope for so many others. The day after Peter's visit, Emma received a call that sent another rush of adrenaline through her veins. It was Elon. She hadn't heard from him in a while, and with everything happening, she wondered what he had to say. "Hey, Emma," Elon's voice came through clearly on the other end of the line, as calm and steady as ever. "How's it going? How are you feeling?" Emma leaned against the counter in her kitchen, trying to steady her breath. "I can't believe it, it feels like everything is falling into place." "That's good to hear," Elon replied. "And I've been talking to Peter. The plan is moving ahead, and we'll make sure you get the best care possible." Her heart skipped. "Really? You're still on board with this?" "Absolutely," Elon said with conviction. "I told you, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to make sure you come out of this stronger than before. And this could be the start of something big, not just for you, but for others who need this kind of support." Emma swallowed, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just about her anymore. Her story was bigger than her. It was about showing the world that people can lift each other up, that even the most impossible situations can be overcome with enough determination and support. I don't know how to thank you," she murmured. "There's no need to thank me," Elon replied with a chuckle. "Just keep pushing forward. That's all you need to do. We'll be here every step of the way." The conversation left her feeling more at peace than she had in a long time. And yet, she knew the hardest part was still ahead of her. The surgery was just one hurdle, albeit a monumental one, but the real battle would be after. She would need to rebuild, recover, and fight to make sure she could return to the life she once had. She wasn't just undergoing surgery, she was preparing for a new chapter, one where she could finally take control again. A few days later, with her surgery just around the corner, Emma found herself in a quiet moment of reflection. She was sitting in her living room, scrolling through her phone, reading messages of support from her followers. It was overwhelming. Strangers from all over the world were sending her encouragement, sharing their own stories, and offering advice. Emma realized she had become a symbol of hope for so many people, and it was both humbling and terrifying. That night, as she sat on her bed, the weight of everything settled in. She was so close now. The surgery, the recovery, the life she had dreamed of, it was all just a few short weeks away. But something lingered in the back of her mind, fear. Fear that this would all fall apart. Fear that the surgery might not work. Fear that all of the sacrifices she had made would be in vain. Her phone buzzed, breaking her from her thoughts. It was a text from Chris. "Hey Emma, I know you've been through a lot. But I've seen you fight, and I know you're stronger than you think. Whatever happens, remember that this is just a chapter, not the whole story. You're not alone in this. We all believe in you." Tears welled up in her eyes as she read the message. She hadn't heard from Chris in a while, but this simple message was enough to remind her of the support network she had, people who had been there from the start, who believed in her even when she couldn't believe in herself. She typed back a quick reply, "Thank you. I'm scared, but I'm not giving up." The night passed slowly, and Emma found herself staring at the ceiling, unsure of what the future would hold. But deep down, she felt something new stirring within her, strength. A strength that had always been there, buried beneath the fear and uncertainty, but one that was now emerging. She was ready to face what lay ahead. As the day of her surgery approached, the buzz around her story continued to grow. The media was all over the story, reports about a young woman getting a life-saving surgery, supported by Elon Musk, Peter Davidson, and thousands of strangers who had rallied around her, circulated everywhere. Emma had become a symbol of resilience. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. She couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. The pressure to succeed, to inspire, to be the person everyone expected her to be, was starting to feel like a heavy cloak around her shoulders. But when she stood in front of the mirror that morning, just hours before her surgery, she realized something important. She was doing this for herself. She wasn't doing it to fulfill anyone else's expectations. She wasn't doing it because the world was watching. She was doing it because she had come too far to turn back now. She had endured the pain, the doubts, the endless setbacks. This surgery, this new beginning, was hers. And she was ready. The morning of the surgery, she felt a mixture of nerves and determination. She held tightly to the support she had from Elon, Peter, Chris, and all the people who had sent their love and well wishes. She wasn't going into that operating room alone. She was carrying with her the hopes and dreams of everyone who believed in her. As the surgical team prepped her, Emma found herself breathing deeply, focusing on the positive. This was the beginning of something new. She would come out of this stronger. She would take the next step. And no matter how difficult the journey was, she would never give up. The door to the operating room opened, and the anesthesiologist began to speak to her, but Emma didn't hear the words. Her mind was calm, focused on the next chapter. She closed her eyes, ready to face whatever came next. And just like that, she let go. The door closed, and Emma's journey to recovery began. The rest of her life was waiting. When Emma finally woke up after the surgery, the first thing she noticed was the absence of pain. It wasn't that she felt completely free of discomfort, but the sharp, unrelenting agony that had haunted her for months was gone. A dull ache remained, but it was nothing compared to what she had endured before. She opened her eyes slowly, her surroundings blurry, but she could make out the faint outlines of a sterile hospital room. "Hey, Emma. You're awake," a familiar voice said, pulling her attention. It was Peter Davidson, standing at the foot of her bed with a smile on his face. His usual polished appearance was softened by concern, but the look in his eyes was filled with reassurance. "Peter?" Emma whispered, her voice hoarse. "Is it over? Did it work?" "It worked," Peter said confidently, stepping closer and lowering his voice. "You're going to be okay. The doctors are very happy with how everything went." Her heart fluttered with a mix of relief and exhaustion. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt this vulnerable, but for the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't mind. "You're in good hands here, Emma," Peter continued. Take all the time you need to heal, but when you're ready, we've got more work to do. There's a lot of people who are waiting to hear from you." She nodded weakly, her thoughts drifting. So much had happened in such a short amount of time. A surgery, a new beginning, and now she was here, still in the hospital, but with the chance to rebuild herself. As the hours passed and the anesthesia wore off, Emma slowly came to terms with the new reality. She was in a place of healing, not just physically, but emotionally. The fears she had carried with her for so long seemed to fade as the hours passed, replaced by an undeniable sense of gratitude. The doctors had given her a timeline for recovery, weeks, maybe even months. It wouldn't be easy, but with the right care and determination, she would eventually be able to reclaim her life. Her body might have been battered, but her spirit was far stronger than she had realized. The next morning, after a few hours of sleep, Emma's phone buzzed, waking her up. She glanced at the screen and saw a message from Elon Musk. "Hey Emma, how are you feeling today? I've been keeping track of your progress, and I'm glad to hear the surgery went well. We're all here for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing the incredible things you'll do next. Don't rush anything. Just focus on getting better." Her heart warmed at his message. Elon had stayed true to his word, checking in and offering her unwavering support. Even though she was surrounded by experts and family, there was something comforting about hearing from him. The last few months had been so chaotic, and yet, here she was, alive, with her future still ahead of her. As Emma worked through the early days of her recovery, a routine began to take shape. Physical therapy sessions, doctor visits, and endless rounds of medications. Her body was adjusting, and so was her mind. Some days were harder than others, but each small victory fueled her spirit. She was learning how to walk again, how to use her body in new ways, and most importantly, how to reconnect with herself. But it wasn't just about physical healing. The journey had been as much about mental and emotional strength as it was about her body. As she lay in her hospital bed, reflecting on the months before the surgery, she realized that the woman who had walked into that operating room was no longer the same person who was lying here now. She had faced her fears. She had let go of the weight of doubt. And most importantly, she had learned how to trust, both others and herself. Weeks later, when Emma was well enough to leave the hospital, she found herself in a place she hadn't imagined a few months ago, the center of an online movement. Her story had gone viral, but not for the reasons she had initially feared. The world wasn't just following her for the drama or the hardship. They were following her because of the hope she had sparked. Her perseverance, her willingness to fight despite overwhelming odds, had inspired so many others. One afternoon, as Emma was scrolling through her social media accounts, she found a new message from an anonymous user. "You don't know me, but I've been watching your journey. Your story gave me the courage to face my own fight. I've started my treatment, and I'm doing better every day. Thank you for being the light that I needed. You've made a difference." Tears filled Emma's eyes as she read the message. This was why she had fought so hard, this was the reason she had shared her struggles. Not for fame or recognition, but for this. To make a difference. To help others find the strength within themselves, just as she had done. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could emerge. And sometimes, the people who helped us the most were those we had never met, who shared in our journey through the smallest of gestures, words, support, kindness. A month later, Emma was up and walking with a cane, a marked improvement from the person she had been when she first entered the hospital. She felt stronger every day, her body responding to the treatments, her muscles waking up as though they had been given a second chance. She had a new sense of purpose now, a clarity that had come through the recovery process. No longer would she let fear dictate her choices. She was going to help others, using the platform that had helped her so much. She had a voice, and now, she would use it to lift up those who needed it most. But before anything else, there was one more thing she had to do. She reached for her phone and dialed the familiar number she had come to rely on during this journey. "Hey, Elon," she said, her voice steadier than it had been in a long time. "I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. I'm ready. Ready to share my story with the world." There was a pause on the other end, and then Elon's voice came through, as reassuring as ever. "I'm proud of you, Emma. You've come a long way. Now go out there and change some lives." With that, Emma knew she had crossed the final threshold. She had survived. She had triumphed. And now, she was ready to help others do the same. The journey was just beginning. The days after Emma left the hospital were filled with small but significant victories. With each passing week, she regained more of herself, both physically and emotionally. The recovery was a journey, and while the path was still winding, she could see clearly now that there was a purpose to all of it. She wasn't just recovering for herself, she was creating something bigger. Her online following had grown exponentially, and people from all corners of the globe were sharing their own stories of struggle, hope, and triumph. They looked to Emma as not just a symbol of survival, but as a beacon of strength in the face of overwhelming odds. Emma was more than just the girl who had fought to survive her surgery, she had become the voice for those who felt voiceless. It was an unexpected turn, but as she began to read more and more of the messages from her followers, she realized how powerful her journey had been. Emma had tapped into something universal, something every person could relate to, the desire to fight, to overcome, to rebuild. One afternoon, after receiving a call from her physical therapist, Emma took a deep breath and looked at her reflection in the mirror. She had worked so hard to get here, to reclaim the life that she had almost lost. And now, it was time for her to take the next step in her mission to help others. She called Peter that evening. They had kept in touch throughout her recovery, and with each conversation, their bond had grown stronger. They had been through so much together in the past few months, and Emma knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed him, his drive, his determination, to help turn her vision into a reality. "Peter," she said, her voice filled with excitement, "I've been thinking. We need to create a platform, something where people who are facing the same battles I faced can come together and support one another. A place where we can share stories, resources, and most importantly, hope. What do you think?" Peter's voice crackled with enthusiasm on the other end. "I love it. This is exactly what the world needs right now. We've already seen how powerful your journey has been for so many people. Let's give them the tools to connect and support one another." They spent the next few weeks brainstorming and planning, working with some of the best minds in tech, marketing, and healthcare. The goal was simple: create an online community where individuals who had been through their own health struggles could find the strength, inspiration, and resources they needed to fight for their own futures. The platform, which they decided to call Hope Together, would offer a space for people to share their stories, connect with others, and access support from a network of professionals in health, wellness, and emotional care. It wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. And Emma knew she had the power to make this happen. As the launch day of Hope Together approached, Emma found herself filled with a combination of excitement and nerves. She had come a long way from the young woman who had first stood on that sidewalk selling cupcakes, unsure of her future. Now, she was about to unveil something that could change the lives of countless others. "Are you ready?" Peter asked as they stood in front of a large screen, preparing for the live broadcast to kick off the platform. Emma took a deep breath, her mind filled with the faces of all the people who had reached out to her over the last few months. She thought about the messages of hope, the stories of pain, the struggles, and the triumphs. All of them had led to this moment. "Ready," she said, her voice steady. "Let's do this." The live stream began, and Emma appeared on screen, standing in front of a crowd of her supporters and partners. The energy in the room was electric. The air was filled with anticipation as she began to speak. "Thank you, all of you, for being here today," she began. "What started as a personal journey of survival has turned into something much bigger than I ever imagined. Today, we're launching Hope Together, a platform that is all about community, support, and healing. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us. This is our chance to lift each other up, to share our stories, and to fight together." The room erupted into applause, and Emma felt the weight of the moment settle over her. This wasn't just a new beginning for her, it was a new beginning for so many others who had been searching for a way to feel seen, heard, and understood. The launch of Hope Together was an immediate success. Within days, the platform had thousands of users from around the world, sharing their personal stories, offering words of encouragement, and connecting with others who were on similar journeys. It wasn't just an online community, it was a movement. Emma continued to speak at events, sharing her story and the mission behind Hope Together. The platform's growth was exponential, and soon, it caught the attention of major media outlets and even more influential figures who wanted to support the cause. Elon Musk, ever the supporter, reached out once again. "Emma, I've been following the success of Hope Together. You've built something truly remarkable. I want to help take it to the next level. Let's talk about scaling it globally." His offer was a game changer. With Elon's backing and Peter's expertise, they were able to expand the platform into new regions, providing resources to people who hadn't had access to the support they needed. Hope Together became not just a platform for those facing health struggles, but a global force for change. As the months passed, Emma's life became a whirlwind of interviews, events, and conversations with people from all walks of life. But through it all, she remained grounded in her mission. She had learned so much throughout her recovery, and now, it was her turn to give back. She had found her purpose, and it was more meaningful than anything she could have ever imagined. Hope Together wasn't just a way to connect people, it was a way to change the way the world thought about health, healing, and community. It was a reminder that no one had to face their struggles alone. One evening, as she sat in her office overlooking the city skyline, Emma thought back to the days when she was selling cupcakes on that busy street corner. It felt like a lifetime ago, but she was grateful for every step that had brought her here. The people she had met, the lessons she had learned, and the strength she had discovered within herself, all of it had led her to this moment. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a leader, an advocate, and a symbol of hope for anyone who had ever felt lost in their own fight. And as she looked out at the city, knowing the impact she was making, Emma smiled. The future was bright. Her journey had just begun.